Okay, when we left off last, I was in orbit around the moon. I gotta transfer some fuel here into the space plane so that I can land. I'm not sure how much I'm gonna need, so I'm gonna give it a generous amount. And then move some crew around here because we're gonna need Kerbals in the science lab. Since I don't think there's anyone in the science lab right now, we'll take one from the habitat. And then we're going to take one from the cockpit, since there's two in there, and we'll send 3 down to the surface. Just getting a first-person view of everybody real fast to see which one I want to take. Can't remember who I moved into the science lab, but we're all set up once this guy gets in to land on the surface, start doing some science research, and mining some keythane. Pretty exciting. Alright, I undocked and I'm going to move away from the top half of the ship now so that I don't bump into it. And full throttle in retrograde. Alright, I'm trying to land on that keythane patch there. You can see my scanning revealed about 3 spots where there's keythane on the moon. Considering how big the moon is, 3 spots is not too many. But I'm assuming there's more and I just didn't find it because I only scanned the equator. That's alright though, because we only need 1. Alright, landing this plane is a bit of an art form. I have to do some pretty clever stuff, but mostly I try to use the nuclear engine as much as I can. It doesn't actually give me a very good thrust to weight ratio, but that's okay because its fuel efficiency is 800 ISP. So I'm going to use it as much as I can before I switch to the pivoting engines on the front of the, or the middle of the plane there. Those engines actually give me 100 thrust each, so more thrust than the nuclear engine, even though the flame coming out of the nuclear engine is way bigger. The pivoting engines give me a lot more thrust. But I try not to use them because they only have 390 ISP, so the fuel efficiency is less than half that of the nuclear engine. So I'm going to burn the nuclear engine pretty much full throttle this entire time because it's just not that powerful. It's only giving me 60 kilonewtons of thrust, so just gently coming to a stop up here in the air so that I can make a graceful landing. You can see this patch is really big. That's why I started with this patch, because it's a large surface area. There's not as much keythane here. It's only 230,000, but I'm not going to mine all that. I'll mine like 3,000 of it. This will be my first ever mining mission, so it's pretty exciting to see how the keythane's going to work. Most importantly though, I'm worried about this plane. It's designed to take off and lift, or land and take off at different weight configurations, since when I'm landing I'll be very low on fuel, and then when I take off I'm going to be full. I'm going to be a big, fat, full beast. Every tank on the ship will be as full as it can be. So it has to be kind of an awkward design. I have this one back-mounted nuclear engine and then the 2 engines in the middle of the plane pivot. But they only pivot to 90 degrees, so I have to be awfully clever. What I did is I came up with an angle. I calculated the thrusts of the nuclear engine, which is horizontal, and then the thrust of the middle engines is 100 each, so that's 200 straight down, but it won't be over the center of mass, so I have to create like sort of a triangle. The plane is going to be one end of the triangle, the ground is another end, and then my angle of incline. So I have to kind of come in and as flat as I can, which is actually really conducive. Right now I have my engines completely pivoted down, and you can see I'm kind of coming in at an angle so that all the engines are killing vertical velocity. All 3 engines are killing vertical velocity, and then the horizontal direction that they're burning in is kind of canceling each other out because I'm tipped mostly forward, so the weaker engine is burning me forward, but since my nose is up, the engines in the middle are pointing at a slight reverse angle, which is killing that thrust that's created by the back engine, which is basically giving me only a vertical thrust vector. I have a little bit of front to back as I work out the angle gently, but that's okay because I have wheels as landing gear, so I can go front and back when I land, that's fine. Since this is running at 4 times time, this landing looks a lot more harsh than it was. That bump was actually very gentle, and I was able to use the torque of the cockpit to actually keep any bit of it from touching the ground. Only the landing gear touch. It looks like the nose gets close there, but it actually doesn't. Alright, so I pump the brakes really gently here because, as you can see, a large portion of the front of the plane is hanging off of the front of the plane with nothing to prevent it from just tipping into the ground. So I have to be very careful when I brake to keep my nose from smacking into the ground. A lot of important stuff there on the nose. That docking port is my only docking port on the whole plane, and then that green thing is actually my processing center. It turns kethane into my fuel. My little flag here, documenting the first landing of the Infinus ship, as it's gonna harvest some kethane and get some surface samples, do all my sciences. There's a lot of science to be done. But yeah, kethane is gonna provide me with, I'm doing all my science experiments first, because I wanna not have them disrupted by the drilling. A little role play. Not really, I didn't think about it. I actually didn't realize how long the drilling was going to take, and I was just doing the science first so that I didn't forget. There's the antenna on the back there opening up and transmitting. So what the science lab allows you to do is, one, it increases the value of transmitting data via antenna. It adds a percentage of the total to the transmission. And then it also resets experiments so that you can spam experiments. Alright, I've got 2 drills, as you can see there by the nuclear engine. The first one's going, the second one's just now being deployed. And we're going to mine some kethane. There we go, second one should be kicking in right about now. Yeah, you can see the sparks going. So now I'm mining at 2 drills at once. Once I get a little supply going, there we go, I'm activating the converter. I think I start with mono propellant. So first thing I'm going to do is refill my mono. You can see my science experiments there in the cargo bay. I really like the way I designed that cargo bay right there in the middle, because it still maintains the structural integrity of the ship and looks clean and uniform, but allows me to put stuff in the middle of the ship where it wouldn't have been damaged by atmospheres and things. Makes it more believable, if anything. But yeah, this kethane mining takes a long time, so the antenna's out spamming, and actually I'm out of electricity, so I'm gonna stop doing science for a while and just focus on mining, because the science is really nuking my batteries. If I run just the miners and the processors, I have just enough electricity production to climb. Alright, so you can see all my fuel tanks now are full up. I got oxidizer. I'm almost finished. I'm finishing up the kethane right now and the liquid. But everything's full. Everything I'm missing is battery. I need electrical charge, but I'm gonna not have a problem with that, since the minute I stop mining, my electricity consumption, yeah, see, look right there. I turned off 1 drill and the electricity immediately started going back up. Alright, we're all filled up. Now I'm really interested to see how this is going to take off with full fuel. The center of mass will now be very far in the front of the ship, which is going to make the nose want to tip down. So I'm going to have to be really aggressive with my SAS. I fire all 3 engines. The front engines are pivoted at 90 degrees, so they're burning straight down. And I'm going to take off like a plane. Alright, I'm pulling up my nose as hard as I can. And I still tip down a little bit, so I need the RCS to kind of right me up. And now I'm burning up to speed to get back into orbit. And then I think right about here I realize that I'm actually going the wrong direction. And I need to... Oh, it was when I made my target. There you go. I made my target and I realized, oh, I am not headed towards my target. I'm headed away from it. So I actually need to turn around. Wasted a lot of fuel here. I'm going to turn around and try and not crash. I'm really close to the ground, so this is a dangerous place to turn. I should have turned around right when I took off so that it saved fuel. I gotta fire the vertical engines. I've turned them back to 0 degrees so that they're in line with the nuclear engine now. Since I'm off the ground, I don't need them to be off-center anymore, so I might as well make them center-focused. But yeah, I'm burning back towards the ship now to get the proper orbital direction. Very fuel inefficient. Luckily, since I have a kethane miner, fuel inefficiency, although annoying, not gonna kill me. I can always replenish. So I head back to the ship. Here I am. I'm back up with the ship now. It took, as you can see, a huge amount of fuel to get back to the ship because I'm so heavy. If one thing I didn't have when I took off of Kerbin is a full kethane tank, I'm carrying 2,000 units of kethane, which makes the ship a lot heavier. So I didn't encompass that into my calculations. So after I dock and start transferring my fuel back into the ship, I'm going to come up with a plan here to reduce the amount of trips I need to make to the surface. Because I'm realizing that if I need 650-ish liters to land, and how many I have now, I can only transfer about 100 liters into the ship, and that's going to take forever to refill at that rate. Even if I refill the 2,000 kethane, which I'm carrying, which is basically universal fuel, I can convert that into anything, that's still going to take me at least 6 trips. By my math, it'll take me at least 6 trips to the surface. So what I'm going to do after I dock is I'm going to shrink my orbit so that I'm closer to the moon. And that's going to cost me on my burn back out, but not as much as it would be to take more trips down to the surface. By doing this, I'll reduce my trips down to the surface by as much as 2. I'll probably only have to go down 4 times instead of 6. Either way, the first time I do something is a learning experience, so I'm not upset that I'm not gaining much from this first trip. I mean, I actually am gaining. I'm getting 2,000 kethane, which is a lot. 2,000 kethane could be 1,000 liquid fuel, I think. Or 500 liquid fuel and 500 oxidizer, so that's a pretty decent amount on that trip. Plus the roughly 100 liquid fuel I transfer out and 100 monopropellant. And I think I'm pretty full on monopropellant, so I won't need to transfer too much more mono, so most of my fuel will be converted into liquid and oxidizer. That's the one that's the most difficult to make. I'll probably top off the Xeon gas as well, because those extra ion thrusters really help with burn time. Reduces my burn times a lot. A good 20-25%. Alright, we're transferring all the fuel and we're going to do a crew rotation because some different guys would like to go down to the surface, and this guy's tired. He just kind of wants to hang out in the life support, or the habitation module, so he's going to get in the habitation module. And then we're going to take one of the scientists out of the science lab, and we're going to make him the pilot of the ship. I think this is Lemon. Lemon really wanted to be pilot. He's just like, you know what? I want to fly this badass ship. So, this ship has a weird little angle, so when you hit the grab button there, sometimes it flips you off because it's not straight. Took me a couple times there. And then we're going to take the guy who's piloting the whole ship in the observer command pod up there, and he's going to go all the way back to the science lab because he wants to take a trip down to the surface. He misses being in gravity. So we're going to let him go down to the surface. But that means we need a pilot for the ship before we leave, because if I decouple right now, I will have no control over the ship. So we're going to take one of the guys out of the habitation module, and he's going to become the pilot, so that I don't lose control. Not that I intend to move... Oh no! I'm going to move the ship first, and then I'll leave it in orbit again, so it's not like a big deal. But you never know when you're going to need it. And then, again, it wouldn't be hard to transfer someone out, but I wouldn't be able to change SAS on and off and stuff like that. So either way, it's just always a good idea to have control of your ship. I'm going to do some science while I'm doing my maneuvers here, because I apparently haven't maxed out all my science above the moon, and since I have the science lab with me, and there's 2 Kerbals in it right now, they might as well be working, because in 0G they don't know that we're moving around. They don't feel that. So what I'm doing is I'm orientating to a retrograde so that I can burn my orbit down to save fuel in my refueling trips. The idea here is the closer I am to the surface, the less fuel it takes me to land and return to dock. Thus, the less trips I have to make to completely top off the ship. Now, the argument for having a farther out orbit is that if you can do it in less trips, without, like, if you have enough fuel tanks, then you want to be far away because then you need less fuel to break your encounter with the moon and burn out into the solar system again. But that's okay. We're good on fuel, to be honest. We're going to probably go to Duna next. Duna or Ike is our next projected target. So We're just gonna top off though to make sure we have full fuel, just in case, because you never know. You don't want to leave anything to chance. I'm burning just the one nuclear engine and the Xeon engines, the electric engines now, to be as fuel efficient as I can to shrink my orbit. And now I'm going to head back down to the surface again and get some more kethane harvesting. If you look out, my kethane tank is empty, and I've taken roughly 6,000 liters of fuel. I know that's more than I need, because that's about how much I used last time when I was in a higher orbit, and I won't be going as fast since I'm in a lower orbit. But again, this is still early in the ship's mission, and I'm not completely comfortable to go red line to red line, so I always leave myself a nice gap. Plus, I'm enjoying this mission, so I have no need to cut down on anything. I know that I've already done one trip, so this will probably be my second, and then maybe 2 more trips after this back down to the surface. So we'll do one more landing at this episode, and you'll get to see the VTOL plane land one more time like a boss. It's a pretty impressive landing if I say so myself. Still, like I said, I'm getting better at the landing. I've killed all of my horizontal velocity, and so now I'm just slowing down my descent. Once I get close to the ground, I'm going to turn horizontal like that and pop out my landing gear. Alright, so I waited a little long to do that, so I'm going to burn really aggressively to slow down. And by doing that, I actually overburned and started going forward because my angle is tipped a little bit too far level. My front-mounted jets are not killing my horizontal velocity, so I'm making some corrections here, trying to kill my speed again. I'm tipping my nose up so that those front jets will kill that horizontal velocity. Again, this is in 4 times time, so this landing looks a lot more violent than it is. Like, that bump was really graceful in real time. It was like a gentle bounce off the ground and then a gentle touch back down. And that was probably my best landing ever right there. It was very, very, very gentle, and then I just kind of was already going uphill, so I just touched the brakes.